and we're continuing to talk about pronouns. What's a pronoun again?
The word that replaces a noun.
Very good. It's the word that replaces a noun. And just to quickly review, when we refer to pronouns, they change forms based on who's speaking and how many people you're talking about. And we talk about them being, we identify them by saying like what person, number, and gender the pronoun is. Okay? So just a quick review. When we're talking about person, if you were asked what is the person of this pronoun, what might be your answer? Like, Louis? Like just in general, what are the three choices?
Between persons?
Yep.
First, second, third.
Perfect. So first person, second person, and third person. So when they're asking for the person of a pronoun, that is what they, who they is, I don't know. That's what we're referring to. First person, second person, third person. Okay, Louis? Yep. And when we are talking about number of a pronoun, what would be our choices for answers for number of a pronoun? Lily?
Singular or plural?
Yep, singular or plural. Okay. And then finally, if we're talking about gender of a pronoun, what are our choices for gender? Greta?
Masculine, feminine, and neuter.
Okay, masculine, feminine, and neuter. Okay. Okay, so tell me again the first person singular pronouns. What are they? You guys can shout them out.
I and me.
I and me. First person plural.
Us. We. Us and we.
We and us. Second person.
You and you.
Anybody want to write them over there?
I will.
Bella, why don't you go ahead? Sorry, Greta. What are the third person masculine?
He, she, her, him, her.
Okay, masculine is he,
She,
him. Feminine is
she,
she, her. Neuter is it. Third person plural.
They and them.
All right, Bella, you got all this? You want to come look? Okay, so that's our review, right? Person, number, gender is how we refer to them. Today we're talking about subject pronouns. Subject pronouns are the pronouns that you use when the word is the subject of the sentence or the subject complement of the sentence. All right? So I'm just going to tell you the subject pronouns are I, of course, you, he, she, it, we, you, and they. Those are your subject pronouns. So when, thank you, Bella. Your subject pronouns are I, you, he, she, it, the subject of the sentence, you use, these are the pronouns that you use. Okay, and when it's in the position of the subject complement, these are the words that you use. Okay, so we might need to review a little bit about subject and subject complement. Let's take a look at the book first. This is going to just kind of reiterate what I just told you, but on page 34 it says a subject pronoun can be the subject or subject complement of a sentence. The subject pronouns are all of those that I just circled. I, we, you, he, she, it, and they. Okay, Lily, did you want to go to the library? Anybody else wanting to go to the library? No? Okay. All right, so here are a couple examples. We went on vacation. In that sentence, we is the subject of the sentence. You wouldn't say us went on vacation, right? You say we use we. All right. The next example. The ones who got lost were my brother and I. That I there is a subject complement. So I is the correct one to use. Okay, it's part of a compound subject complement. Okay, be sure to use the subject pronouns for subjects and subject complements. To identify a pronoun subject complement, check whether the verb is a form of be or some other linking verb, and whether the pronoun renames the subject. Okay, so let's do a little review of subjects and subjects complements. What is the subject of the sentence? Like in general, just to give me a definition of a subject. Greta?
What the sentence is about.
Okay, yeah, so a subject equals who or what the sentence is about, right? Where do you find it? Where do you find the subject of a sentence usually? Joey?
Towards the start of the sentence?
Yeah, it's usually, we always have to say usually because there are exceptions, but it is usually found at the beginning of the sentence before what? Did I spell that right?
Before the verb.
Yes, before the verb. That is a subject. That one's pretty simple. I feel like you've been doing that since 3rd grade, right? Finding the subjects of the sentence. Okay. I think you've been doing the next one since 1st grade too. Can you do my writing? Trying to go fast. Okay. Then, so that's subject. What is a subject complement then? How do we find that? This is a review. What is a subject complement, first of all? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you. It's a word that either renames or describes the subject of the sentence. It complements the subject, a subject complement. So it renames or describes Greta, do you want to go and write this over there? So it renames or describes the subject of the sentence. Anybody remember where a subject complement is found? Ben?
After the noun,
After the, not the noun.
subject.
No. Well, it will be, so you're not wrong. You're not wrong saying that, but something else identifies it a little bit better. Lucy?
After the verb.
Yeah, this is usually found toward the end of the sentence after the verb, and specifically a certain kind of verb. What kind of verb does it come after, Grayson? What?
The being verb?
Being, or just a linking verb. So it can be a verb of be, a being verb, but it can be other linking verbs as well. So this is found closer to the end. But you know, now that you guys have longer, more complicated sentences, it might not always be right at the end. There might be words after it, a lot of words after it, but kind of in general, it's after the verb, right? This is really important. It is following a linking verb. Okay? It follows a linking verb. So we have a little formula to find it. It's subject. First you find the subject of the sentence. Then you find the verb, and it has to be a linking verb. And then you ask who or what. And that equals your subject complement. Okay? So if you have to put a pronoun right here, you are going to use these subject pronouns. Okay? So if the pronoun is the subject or the subject complement, use a subject pronoun. So remember, the subject is like doing the action, right? Okay. So back to your book. It says, one frequent error is not using the subject form of a pronoun when the pronoun is part of a compound subject or a compound complement. Okay, so if you have, so what's a compound subject or a compound subject complement? What does that mean if it's compound? What does it mean if a subject is compound? What does compound mean? Grayson?
Two things in one.
Two things, right? So if you have a compound subject, you have two subjects, okay? So Lucy and Ryder went to the library. Two subjects, okay? Both of them. So if Lucy was speaking, she would probably say, Ryder and I went to the library, because she's still the subject of the sentence, so she has to use a subject pronoun. Okay, one good way to figure out what to say is like to take off the and part. Okay, so like if you take off Ryder and then you can say, oh, I went to the library, right? And then, because you wouldn't say, it's easier to figure out that way. You wouldn't say me went to the library, okay? If you flipped it around and made it a subject complement, and you said, the people who went to the library were Lucy and Ryder, now that is a compound subject complement. Lucy and Ryder come after a linking verb were, and they rename the people, right? The people and Lucy and Ryder are the same thing. That's renaming it. So, if Lucy was speaking again, she would say, the people who went to the library were Ryder and I, because it's after a linking verb and it's a subject complement. Okay? So after a linking verb, you use a subject pronoun. Okay, so here are 2 examples of that. You have to correct these. My cousins and me like to shop. What would you say instead? Lewis? What? My cousins and I like to shop. The ones talking on the phone were Vivian and her. What would you say instead? Grayson? Yeah, the ones talking on the phone were Vivian and she. You have to, because it's after a linking verb, it's a subject complement, you use a subject pronoun, she. Even if it sounds a little strange to you, okay? All right, so it says yes, we'll skip that paragraph because that's what we just said, that you were right. Note that a pronoun referring to the speaker should come last in a pair of series. How would you improve this sentence? I and Audrey got good marks on the test. Lily?
We got good marks on the test?
No. If you were saying it still with the names, Grayson.
Audrey and I.
Audrey and I. So the pronoun, the person who's speaking, comes last, basically. Comes second. Okay? Okay, anybody have questions? Okay, let's just do a couple practice. Choose the correct pronoun to complete the sentence. Let's start with Emily. Number 1, Emily.
Exercise 1.
Yep, exercise 1, number 1.
My family and I went to Pronouns.
Yep, I. Number 2. Ryder, can you do number 2?
We went to visit our aunt, uncle, and cousins today.
Yep, we. Number 3, Avery.
My cousins and I haven't seen one another in several years.
Yep, that's good. Lewis, can you do number 4? No. Yeah, number 4.
Exercise 2, right?
Nope, exercise 1.
My sister Madeline is a very good friend of one cousin. My cousin Julia and her exchange emails often.
Okay, so the verb is exchange. So who's exchanging? Yep, she and Julia. So Julia and she exchange, because that's a compound subject. Okay, so you use a subject pronoun. All right, number 5, Ben.
My cousin expected us to arrive much earlier, but still waited for us. They still waited for us.
Yep, they. Okay, we are going to skip down to exercise 4. And you choose the pronoun and then you tell whether it's being used as a subject or a subject complement. Okay, number 1, Ewan.
My relatives and I enjoy being among the crowds in the city.
Yep.
And it's a subject.
Yep, number 2, Joey.
My sister and I usually do things together, but she wanted to go to theater with my parents. Also a subject.
Yep, we're going to move down to number 6, Greta.
The library suggested we watch the live TV show, and thus was him. And that's a subject complement.
Okay, so subject complements have to use what kind of a pronoun? Subject pronoun. So what would it be? He. It's following a linking verb. So you use he. And that's a subject complement. Yep. And number 7, Lily.
The person waving with the camera was So I'll be on TV.
It's that sounds right, but what
The
it should
word
it
there was I.
was I.
So I'll be on TV.
Yeah, it's I, because that is a common mistake, right? Because that's kind of what we say is me. But it's after a linking verb was, it's the subject complement, so you use a subject pronoun. So it should be I, and it's a subject complement. Okay, so be thinking about that. After a linking verb, if it's a subject or a subject complement, use the subject pronouns. Okay, any questions? All right, homework is practice book page 26. Okay, and it is, I believe, on the back side of 25, which I gave back to you today. Okay, or if you handed that in early,